This was initially going to be talking about the nonlinear filter, but you know what? I decided to kind of do a 2-in-1 to celebrate the nonlinear filter release, which is great, by the way. And I really just want to take a moment to talk about phase plant. I'm not going to talk about the features of it, and I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty stuff because I've already got a review on it, but these are my thoughts and opinions towards why I think phase plant is the best synth on the market for me and likely for you, whether you know it or not. Okay, small disclaimer. Kilohearts did provide me with a license for this, okay? I specifically reached out to them. I asked them, hey, can you supply me with a copy so that way I can review it? But I can honestly say through my own personal exploration, through my own personal journey, that phase plant changed my entire perspective on sound design. Why? A couple reasons. One, it is so streamlined. Everything is on a single tab, and the fact that you have some amazing modulators to kind of couple with that, the fact that you have free routing, the fact that you have almost limitless generators, as in however many oscillators you want, limitless effects, the fact that you can do multipass in phase plant or snap heap in phase plant to have even more effects, and you can alternate between these to have multiple patches inside of one patch, and the speed at which you can work makes this thing a freaking monster. It's pretty CPU efficient, especially now, and they continue to update it. Yes, it's also really cool that it also has phase invaders or space invaders. It's got different unison engines. It's got different means of FM. You can draw your own wavetables. Phase plant is the best synth on the market. Fight me. For its price and for the amount of options that it gives you, the fact that you can use the snap-ins outside of phase plant, so you have a full suite of effects that for the most part are pretty darn awesome too. Man, phase plant is dope. And with the latest nonlinear filter, which we are going to get into here in just a second, I do believe that it adds another layer of complexity to your sound design needs. If you don't believe me, do me a favor, go look at Eternum, which is a trailer that I just released for my preset pack for this, and tell me if you've ever seen anybody else design sounds like that in a different synth. That's not me saying that I'm the best sound designer ever. That is not what I'm getting at, but that specific kind of sound, those kinds of generators, those kinds of things. Tell me. And also provide me a link. Because if you just say, yeah, I found something better, like I want proof, because I highly doubt that it's as easy to sound design, it's as easy to do things in a different synth compared to phase plant. The generator aspect of it, the random mods, man, the random mods on this guy is so amazing. The different types of other modulators that you have. I do think that, okay, yeah, Serum has better, I guess, like ways to draw their custom LFOs or whatever, but this has just as much flexibility if you can get over kind of the odd learning curve of how to kind of draw these. You can't really double click anywhere. You have to kind of do that. Okay, yeah, I get that. All right, let's talk about the nonlinear filter. What am I making? This doesn't even matter. This was something that I was experimenting with. Turn everything else back on and let's listen to this cool little kind of like bass stab thing that I made. I think this was in here. This was here. This was here. What does this sound like? Yeah, nice little kind of like roller style, like bass stab thingy. That's not really the point, but to be honest with you, I didn't really do a whole lot in order to get this. I made a nonlinear filter, I added a note to this, and then what I did was duplicated it 3 times and did more distortion to it. At the very end, I've got a little bandpass thing. Without it, it sounds like this. Wow, we're not using this. So one cool thing about this is like you can just put on some stuff about the like on this effect chain or whatever and just do a couple of different things and get some crazy different sounds just by manipulating it this way. On the nonlinear filter, I have a note that is kind of dictating or trying to match the pitch. I actually really like that sound. Sorry, I'm getting lost. But aside from that, I've also got a macro on the cutoff of all 3 of these, so that way they're all matching together, and they're all on the warm preset. Together with all that stuff, then you're able to make some really sick sounds. If you kind of just want to strip everything to its base, then we can turn all this stuff off except for the nonlinear filter or a single instance of the nonlinear filter. Maybe turn that off too, turn the limiter off. And right now this is on the warm setting, but we've got a nice like 808 thing that we can use, which sounds like this. Then what we can also get into is maybe changing the different saturation modes or the different distortion models. And I really appreciate the fact that between all of these, you can see how this is affecting the slope, or I guess like the curve of the filter in its own right. I really appreciate that because this will kind of tell you what kind of harmonics it's generating, right? So obviously on these, I've got the drive turned up all the way, but I really wanted to see what this is doing. So let's take a listen. You should be using headphones for this, by the way. That one's awesome. This was the original one that we were starting with. That's really cool. Wow. That's super awesome. Now, I will say that I forgot to turn this distortion off, but it doesn't matter because I think that by changing the modes that you have on here, you can pretty much tell the difference. But why is this important? Because it's more distortion. That's why. It's more distortion types. It's more ways to add creative harmonics to this without having to go outside of the box and use something different like trash. Now, I definitely still have the wave shaper or whatever, or like a custom distortion model on my wish list or whatever. Like imagine being able to have multipass and then a wave shaper on there to where like you can really create your own custom distortion types. That'd be sick. But for $10, this is really hard to beat. And it's kind of like combining all this stuff, especially like when you do something like this to start to stack these things. Like maybe I'm going to use digital, and then on this one I'm going to use metallic, and then on this one I'm going to use something completely different like tubular, because that's what we are, right? Okay, sorry, bad joke. But between something like this like that's a really cool sound that has just enough nuance in it, just enough characteristic to get something that is different than something like your typical 808, right? And what we can do is we can shift the macro here or the filter cutoff to see what else we can get with it. That sounds so freaking cool to me. I love that sound. It almost sounds like one of those like classical detuned squares that have a low pass on it, right? But it sounds like we're getting some kind of wideness or like some kind of phasing almost in a pleasing way without there actually being any unison on this. So if we turn this back on, man, I really like the way that that sounds. Let's try a saw wave. Super cool, man. Super cool. Between all that stuff, like just by having these three things, I do have a limiter that's pushing this up now, but you have a lot of different options that you can create with that. And like if you're in the means of like creating cool basses and stuff that are immediately usable, like I think that this is something that has a lot of potential, long story short. Like how many different kinds of sub bass have we created just by manipulating this with just a sine wave or just a saw wave? So I really think that you guys can get lost in phase plan. I really think that I've gotten lost in phase plan quite some time. The new nonlinear filter is a welcome addition for me personally, and I always usually do like, here's a patch that I made, here is, you know, how to make this sound or whatever, but I kind of just wanted to show you a simple way of how like I mess around with sound design when I find or get my hands on something new. This isn't the end all be all, and there's plenty of other different use cases for the nonlinear filter in general, and it doesn't have to be specifically geared towards bass, but at the same time, like look how much we can kind of we can explore and how many different variations of sound we can create just by using some simple tools. So again, man, like I can't really stress enough how much I love Faceplant and how much it's changed the game for me for understanding sound design. But if you get the chance, try out Faceplant for yourself. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if the nonlinear filter has been worth it for you all. This has been me just geeking out over what I pretty much use every single day. And if you have any questions regarding Faceplant, let me know in the comments. But other than that, be sure to do your due diligence and like and subscribe if you like the content, and maybe I'll do more just like messing around and stuff in the DAW or whatever in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching my content, and I will see you in the next one.